Alright guys, Unit 1, Lesson 2, Properties of Real Numbers. Commutative property says you can switch the values for addition and multiplication, and you will get the same results. 3 plus 2 is the same thing as 2 plus 3, which is 5. Works for multiplication. 3 times 2 is the same thing as 2 times 3. So you can reorder for addition and multiplication. Associative says you can group things. If you have 3 of them, you can group them in different ways. So 3 plus 2 plus 1 is the same thing as 2 plus 1 plus 3. All right, oops, slight error here. Jumping the gun. 5 plus 1. All right, so associative works for addition, multiplication, not division, not subtraction. So over here, we'll use the same values. 3 times 2 times 1 is the same thing as 2 times 1 times 3. In both cases, you're going to get 6. Identities, those allow us to isolate values, variables, which is what we're going to work towards when we solve for x. So anything plus 0 is itself. Addition is commutative, so we can switch it. Multiplication, same thing, but it's the number 1. Multiplying by 1 doesn't do anything. That is essentially how we would cancel things out. You get that 1 or 0 involved, and it doesn't do anything, leaving your x or whatever you're trying to isolate by itself. The inverse comes off of that. So to obtain your identities, you add its opposite. That's how you essentially cancel things out, right? So that becomes 0. To get the identity for multiplication, you multiply its reciprocal, and you get that. A cannot be 0, otherwise you end up with 1 over 0. For example, that is not 1. You cannot divide by 0, that's bad. If you have a fraction, multiply by its reciprocal, its inverse, so 1 over 2/3, and that is just 3/2. Just flip it, guys, you get 1. All right, so we apply those when solving for x. So for example, real quick, x plus 4 equal to 10. So the goal is to get x by itself. So that's the same thing as x plus 0 per the identity property. 0 is the same thing as 4 plus negative 4 per the inverse property. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So this negative 4 I introduce here has to be introduced over here. And that's just the addition property, which we'll discuss later. As long as you add it to both sides, you're okay, you're good to go. So inverse property, identity property, and we're left with 6, which checks out if you plug it back in. All right, distributive property. So let's see what we got. So say we had 3 times 2 plus 4. So yes, this is 6 times 3, 18. A lot of times it's not numbers and we have to distribute. So 3 times 2, 3 times 4, and you can see it does check out to be 18. It does work in reverse, and we do that a lot. Factoring, when we're combining like terms, in fact. So let's say I wanted to do 2x plus 3x, which is in fact 5x. Most of y'all are aware of that. They both have an x. In fact, let's go ahead and switch the x and 2 and the x and 3 using commutative property so that the x is right here represented by our a. So using this property, the a will come out in this case x, leaving 2 and 3. X times 5, commutative property says you can switch it. So those are the properties of real numbers. I'm going to end this video here. The next video will be order of operations.